Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session on procurement risk management. When we're talking about procurement risk management, let me first explain what is a risk. Second word would be the managing the risk. So there are two components of it. So when we say risk, risk is a part of our business. Risk is a part of our life. I leave the home, there's a risk. I go to the job, there's a risk. I change my job, there's a risk. So risk is a part of our day-to-day life. But here I'm talking of business. When we say risk, it basically means future uncertain events. Anything can happen, which has happened last year. All of us have suffered. Nobody thought about it. Nobody planned it. Nobody thought of mitigating it. It happened suddenly, and then we had to suffer, all of us in the last 1 year. Now, these events these risks could have a negative impact, and for some could be a positive impact also. Keep in mind that also. For some people, it's a negative. Sometimes for some people, it becomes a positive also. You may be saying, what is the positive in this side? I'll explain later, but just to give you one, some of the business flourished like anything. Health sector improved quite a lot last year. When I talk of e-commerce, did a wonderful job around. So there were some impact, positive impact, some were negative. So if I go back old definition of risk, if I go in 1980s, 1990s, risk was all basically financial risk. If you tell the management there's a risk, then what risk? You say, guys, the possibility the supplier may not deliver. Okay, the financial risk is this. At the most, I'll cancel the order. Whatever advance I have paid, I may forget. I go to second one. And we used to cover those financial risks through insurance part. But now in the last, I would say 2 years or 1 year, basically after COVID-19 pandemic period, procurement has become a frequent topic. Everyone talking around it, they say, guys, the world has got only one supply chain hub. We all depend on one supply chain hub. And if that supply chain hub stops around, delivery gets tougher. So procurement has been a very frequent topic last year. I will say procurement came to the limelight. That's why there was hardly any job losses in procurement. In other functions were there, but not in the procurement. So procurement has become a frequent topic in all the discussion, in all the conversation when it comes to risk management. Every company's supply chain depends on procurement. Procurement is a part of the supply chain, but procurement is the front face of the supply chain. If procurement is not good, the whole supply chain comes to disruption. Now, with increased outsourcing, this also has impacted a lot on the risk management. If I go back 30 years back, 40 years back, everything was done more or less in-house. We were vertically integrated. So when we are vertically integrated, risks are very less. But in the last 2 decades, most of the activities are getting outsourced. They say, guys, I remember the time when I was heading the UN activities as a chairperson. We were having around 200 servers. Somebody said, guys, is it the job of UN to manage the servers? Outsource it. But the outsourced word is very easy to say. But the moment I outsource, my next thing is, I'm going to ensure the continuity part. Can I ensure the continuity? Nobody will thank me until it is working. But the day one server is down, account is not able to process the payment, everybody's finger will be on me. I think that is a little sad part in the procurement profession or supply chain profession. Till things are going, nobody thanks you. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when things go wrong, then everybody fingers on you guys. Why didn't you thought about this? Why didn't you do this? And that's the time I worked on the business continuity plan, BCP. It's a very hot subject. I'm talking of 2005 or 2006. So now I can see this in America was easy, relatively faster because there everything is, the culture was outsourcing. In these countries, developing countries, the culture of outsourcing has come now, the last 10 years, I would say, or 15 years. And with increased outsourcing, there's a positive side. There's an opportunity also. That you're able to come with more brands, you're able to come with a better quality, But outsourcing has also brought risk, both sides of the coin, how you manage it. So this is why I would say that PRM, the procurement risk management, has become a strategic function. It is not an operational function. Operational mean, guys, okay, let it happen, then we'll see to it. That is operational. Something comes on my head and then I start bleeding around, then I say, okay, guys, now I have to get myself cured. No, in advance, what could happen? How to act on it. So that is what we're calling a strategic, thinking long-term basis, not after the if part. When it happens, sometime we have to look around the if angle, not if when angle. When happens, it's too late, damage is done. Now, these words were not very common if I go 2 decades back. Even in the developing countries now, everybody talks of procurement activities, supply chain activity. They say, guys, do you see any risk around? And you have to give a report on a monthly basis. Now, when we talk of risk management, it's a process. So now we know the risk definition. The risk management is a process. Process of to manage the risk, where it is in the procurement cycle. It could be in the supply chain cycle. If some of you are dealing with the complete supply chain, including logistics, including inventory, then the complete cycle of supply chain. Before any disruption. You don't wait for the disruption. So what could happen, that's what. Then we come to this, however, after disruption, people start focusing on BCP, business continuity plan. I know it still has not picked up in Asia when I've seen, because I've been in India now for the last 10 years. I've not seen much on this, although the topic is being discussed around, but this still has to take the lead. The first thing is risk management. Second is, guys, how do I ensure my continuity? That's very important. Now, in this session, our mission is excellence in risk management. How? I would say by learning techniques to identify. How do I identify? I'll cover very broadly the identification part based on my experience and analyze them and manage this. So, well, friend, with this, let me see what I'm planning to cover in this. So what we are covering is learning object I've kept around is understanding risk. If you're managing risk very well, you're improving your resilience. You're building your resilient part. If I'm healthy, I'm resilient also. But if I'm not healthy and suddenly I fall sick, damage is done. So risk is a resilient. I'll discuss a little more further. Identify the business risk. Evaluation of the risk factors. What are the risk factors around? Evaluation of control levers. What are the control levers which could be done? Managing. Comparing strength of control with regard to risk and vulnerability. I've shown a small picture on the way I thought around when we walk on the road. We see you can say the peel of the bananas. We don't lift it. We say, guys, okay, let it lie. But that is a risk for someone. Maybe again for you, when you're coming back, you may slip this. So you have known the risk, but you're not taken an action. You only are waiting when it happens, then I'll see to it. For some, the damage could be very small. For some, it could be more, depending on the health situation. So same way in your procurement business, in your supply chain business, some are very visible to you. Some are not visible to you, visible like these banana leaves. Some may not be visible to you. So that's where your experience comes in. Managing effectively the procurement risk and developing risk. That's a broad objective in this session. Let me start with the very first quote, which I feel is Charles Darwin, who wrote around 200 years back. I think it works still today. It works for every person, every company, every community, whichever country you may talk around. It is not the strongest of the species. Guys, we are the smartest people. No, that we will survive. It is not the strongest that will survive, not the most intelligent. Who will survive? The one who are responsive to change, who change with the time. People who don't change with the time, the world is not same which was 1,000,000 years back or 1,000 years back. No, it's different. You and me, if you look 1 generation back, 2 generations back, is all different. Mindset has changed. So if we are not changing it, we will have more risk around. So Charles Darwin, I think, is a wonderful quote I felt around. Although the guy is running around with the risk factor, but I think Charles Darwin has given good concepts on it. Let me put the context part. Everybody talks of the word is VUCA, V-U-C-A. V stands for volatility, which all of us know. Yesterday, I was doing a wonderful business on X product because I deal with one chocolate company, I remember. So 3-4 years back, the chocolate was a very popular, growing business. Now people taste have changed. Business is volatile. Nothing is certain. Somebody else comes with a different product around, which is much better than yours. Uncertainty. Demands are not fixed. So even if I go 2 decades, 3 decades back, I think companies were stable. Whatever production we were making, just adding 10%, we were all growing. But today, uncertainty is very high. So demand planning has become a very critical function. I don't know in your organization is still there or not. In the US, it's becoming very common. Nobody talked about demand planning in the past. Sales will do the forecast, and you will say, guys, okay, here's the forecast. That is the end of it. Today's people say, guys, come on, guys. They made a sales forecast last time. Error was 30%. Last time it was 20%. We were not able to cope the needs of it. But today, what we are saying around, guys, we need to have a demand plan. So the demand planning is becoming a very important function. In India also, I've seen it's picking up. But in the Western countries, I've seen, if you work companies like Apple and others, they have directors dealing with demand planning. And they are the one link between supply and forecast people, or the sales people. They say, guys, okay, this is how we want to go. Now, everybody started recognizing the deal of effective needs of focusing on the supply. Monitoring the supply risk is a serious challenge. It's not easy, let's be honest. Now with the last few years, I say after the COVID-19, now people are saying VUCA was okay, but now it is VUCA 2, version 2. The version 2 says, guys, volatility is fine. To manage it, we need to have vision. Each company should have a vision. And they should understand the probabilities of happening. They should have the courage to change. Some people don't want to change. I know change is not easy. It's not comfort level. Staff also think, guys, why are you changing it? Things are going well. So you need to have the courage to change. And then it should be adopted. So that's the way the new context. So let me put the context the way word is changing. The definition of risk, I gave you a small idea, but let me put it this way. Risk is a problem, a potential problem. It could be potential opportunity also in some cases. It might happen or it may not happen. Nobody can say it's 100%. No risk is certain 100%. If it's 100%, then you have a constraint. Conceptual part, if I look around at the definition of risk, is a future habit. It could also be because of the change in the mind of the people. The people mindset have changed. Actions have changed. Even geopolitically, relations have changed. All that could lead to risk. Risk involves choices. So whenever there's a risk, you have a choice. You say, guys, should I go this way or that? Look around your personal life. You are having a pressure that this company is not doing well, I want to change my job. Now you want to change the job, you have two choices. Each one has its own plus and minus. So risk is there, but it involves choices also sometimes. And each may have this. Two characteristics I will look at. One is uncertainty. Risk may or may not happen. But there is no 100% risk. In the definition, there is no 100% risk. If it is 100% risk, I'll better call as a constraint. So that constraint is there. But then I won't call as a risk part. I'll say it's a risk constraint. The next is the loss part. The risk becomes a reality, unwanted consequence at the end of the day. That's the way we look at it. So risk is uncertain events. It's a delay in the achievement of your objectives. Risk is not certain. But again, I want to emphasize, not all risks are bad. Some level of risk must be taken in order to progress. Let's say we have been doing some job in the company doing very well for last 10 years, 15 years, and we never change our product. Look at the company like those who are making incandescent lamps. If you go 6 years, 7 years back, they're doing great. Some never bothered to change it. Those who change to the LED lamps and others, they are basically killed the other business. And tomorrow when electric cars comes up, or halogen-based car comes up, some companies will change over, some will not change over. Those who change with the time, they will do a great job. So keep in mind, and that's also happening to us also. I'm working in a company X, let's say. But I've seen that the future thinking is different. Skill requirement is different. Honestly, if all of you look back, 10 years back, 15 years back, the skills which were required today is totally different. Today, everybody needs to know about the data analytics. Everybody needs to have some idea about the AI. They need to know how can automate it. How can I change my processes? So the processes are changing. Technology is changing. So all of us become redundant, I would say, in 10 to 15 years if we don't equip ourselves with new skills. And this is where we have some problem in the college level, because the college curricula is still old. When I studied in the business school in India and abroad also, supply chain management was a part of operation. Today it's the reverse. Supply chain management should be the major, operation is part of it. But many colleges still, they give you MBA major in operation management. So the curricula has not changed, but keep in mind in the job side, in the business side, industry side, we need to improve our skills around. So sometimes the risks are, I would say, good also. They come with a new product, they come with the new technologies, and they cut down the cost also. For some, this could be a loss. So risk is nothing but, if I look around the definition-wise, exposure to possible loss, probability of such a loss. So if I multiply, something is going to cost me $25,000. If I lose, and the probability is 80%, then my actual risk is 25,000 multiplied by 0.8. Anything you can stop from attaining your goals and objectives is a risk. Now here it is something somebody has very rightly put around. If you don't do risk management, then you're moving into crisis management. And I think this is the sad thing. If you are moving into the crisis management, it's not good. I've seen in procurement very often, now people are, when they are tactical procurement, any company, correct me if I'm wrong, any of you company, if you guys are working in a very operational level approach, working on a tactical approach, most of us then are struggling on a daily basis, on a firefighting. Procurement people are the last one to leave the office. They'll say, somebody will call, oh, what happened to this? You start reminding people. So you start falling up around. Then you don't get a good sleep for that. So my worry is, if proper risk management is not done, we don't become strategic, we are moving into crisis management. I don't think it's a crisis is every day, something is wrong. Now, why should there be crisis every day? If I'm heading a function and I'm creating a crisis for my team on a regular basis, I'm not a good leader. Reasons could be many, but then one has to come with that. So risk management is not only taking care of the risk part, preparing for the worst situation. If this happens, if is the question now, what happened is not the question. If this happens, am I ready for it? So that's what it means. Now, risk management, when we talk around, you have a risk. Yes. You want to control it. Yes, you can control. My risk is, guys, my supplier may not deliver. I can stock them for 1 year. I remember the time when I started my first job at Tata's. We knew that parts were coming from US, from Carrier Corporation, with whom I joined later on when I moved to the US. So we used to keep a stock for 3 months, 6 months, to take care of all eventuality. Sometime it used to come, that risk was helping us because the price will increase in 6 months. I'd say, guys, okay, even if I kept a stock for 6 months, I'm okay. But think of today's world. If I keep a stock for 6 months or 8 months or 1 year, I'm mitigating my risk of delivery, fine, but my cost goes up. I have losses also around. So risk plus control, I'm left with some exposure. Now that exposure isn't acceptable to you. That means I have a risk appetite. Now that risk appetite, I'm trying to cover, but I'm not covering 100%. It costs big money. So the whatever exposure is left around, is that appetite good enough for my acceptance? Now coming back to the framework, what exactly is a framework for risk? And this one I think everybody should know from very basic level. So far I've explained the concept of risk, what exactly is the risk, what is risk management. Now I'm coming to the framework for the matter. The very first thing is establish the objective. Then identify the risk. And then develop the controls from it. Develop the control levers. So once I have control lever, then I say, let me start looking at the assess the risk. Then again, I come to the evaluate and take action. I've done all the assessments. I've identified them. I'm putting the controls. Now I'm trying to monitor them and making a report. And during the monitoring stage, I find, guys, my evaluation was not good. My process was control was not good enough. Maybe I have to put a more control on it. I was placing an order with the supplier of 1,000 pieces. Error was, let's say rejection rate was 10%. I was okay, I can manage, instead of 1,000, I'll place 10% more order to take care of those rejection rates. But then later on I find in the monitoring stage, rejection rate is not 10%, it's 20% or 50%. Then I have to change it. Then I learn something. I improve myself, I communicate, and then we work on it. So steps are very, very clear. Objective has to be there. Identify the risk around and controls. And lastly, the monitor part of it. So identification, that is a very thing, first thing. And this is what we need to learn. I'll cover in the future slides. What are the risks? How do I assess them? And then control them. In different ways, depending on what type of risk it is, and then monitor them. Now, based on the survey, I could say the broad risk which has happened in the last few years, and particularly last year, supplier failure. This was a very common thing around. Parts are not coming because supply hub was only in one country or two countries. Parts are not coming, input is not coming, then you can't make the finished goods. It was stopping your assembly. The whole disruption was there. There could be strategic risk. Strategic risk could be that you are not important for them. The relationships are not so good with them. But you are not planned properly the scheduled part. So then the next come is the natural disasters. So natural disasters, what has happened? No question come, is COVID-19 a natural disaster? This question came, can we use the word of force majeure, which we have in the terms and conditions around. So later on, the government of India also came with the definition on that force majeure, revising it. Technically, it was not a natural disaster, but then they came with the definition to treat it as it is under the force majeure. Then the next one is the geopolitical events, country to country. Regulatory risk around, logistics failure, intellectual property infringement. Some countries have become so particular, oh, nobody else can make it, only I can make it. So those affected it a lot, as well as others. So supplier. The quality suffered because there were few suppliers in the world left over for critical items, particularly, let's say, in the electronic items. They were dumping any parts, even rejected parts of the world. Say, guys, take it or forget it. So product quality was suffering. Capacity and stability part. So they were all affecting your business. And at the end of the day, the customer was unhappy. Compliance part also happened. They are supposed to comply with international standard. They are supposed to comply with other ethical issues around. Those compliance will also off the track. Transportation cost is picked up. Even now still, containers are not available easily. Shipping cost has gone up. In some cases double, some cases more. It's already high in the highest. So now these issues become around, have we foreseen this? The shortage of containers. Now I know in India some people have started making it. So if these are foreseen, then possibly we can cut down. Lack of staffing to manage. Now people who were trained in every organization, 80 to 90% people were very tactical people, operational people. Operational means you explain them step 1, step 2, step 10. The morning they come and they do 10 steps, they say, guys, my job is done. But now you want people who are more strategic, who can think of future, who can look around what type of risk going to happen. Every project, they can tell you the risk. If I'm a project manager, I'll say, guys, before I start, I'm the project sponsor. Can you tell me what are the potential risks? If somebody says no risk, I will not take it. Risk is bound to happen. So if somebody writes to me, sir, don't worry, nothing will happen. That is not the answer. What are the potential risks? And how are you trying to manage it? That's the key. So that's what we need to listen around. So the risk could be, again, if the probability part and the consequences. And that's mean high probability, high consequences. That's what we need to really focus on. I'm not saying that you have to worry on the low risk and low. Even if they happen, then you have a resilient to manage them. The problem comes when there's a high risk and high impact around, then I may not have a resilient system to manage it. Risk versus resilience. Now, these two words have come up, I would say, in the last 1 year, 2 years, resilient part. And there's another word called agility. In the procurement dictionary, we were not talking much on resilience in the past. Only the risk was there. Business continuity plan was there. Resilient means, if I take an example around, if I hit someone, the guy falls down, but within a second, the guy stands up, again able to manage. Same way, if company has got some hit, some parts are not coming, or something is not happening, or some people are left around, particular machine is not working, you come to such a situation, oh, nothing can happen. But then there are some companies who have the right talent around, right alternative sources of supplies are there around, relations are very good with the suppliers, they can stand very fast. So that is what we call the resilient part. I mean, you're able to withstand the disruption which could happen for whatever reasons. Procurement risk is potential of failures of agility. Role of any procurement is to build a robust supply chain. At the end of the day, if you look supply chain, any supply chain, procurement is a major component. So there are four components, there are four pillars of supply chain: procurement. Then I've got logistics. Then I've got strategic planning around. And then I've got the last one is, I would say, the operation part. Now the operation part is shrinking in many companies. At least in the tier 1 companies are becoming assemblers. Tier 2 might be giving you OEMs, or tier 3 may be giving you OEMs. So in short, your supply chain for the tier 1, I'll say procurement plays a key role. Then some company procurement also takes care of logistics. They are the one who are connecting from one side supply upstream and downstream supply customer. They are the one who are connecting. And those who are connecting from upstream to downstream, I should say that they should have calling themselves procurement. They should say, guys, we are a supply chain people. Then there are other 7 risk clusters around. Technical is there, legal is there, government is there, ethical part is there, geographical, functional. I'll touch a little bit on this. But let's understand the risk is known to you. Probability may be 5%. Probability could be 10% or 60%, 70%. So risk part, you can always do the probability part. You can define this. But then there are issues which are unknown. Like COVID-19 pandemic, it was unknown. Once in a century, something like that happens, but this was typically unknown. Unknown, uncharacterized, low probability events. Those are the ones which are called mutual resilience partner. The third one is agility. Agility means I'm agile enough to respond to the customer. In the good old days, when I went through my college, I was discussing all the time JIT, JIT. Just in time, just in time. We want to be slim. We want to be sleek and slim. Great. But now people say, guys, slim is good. But if tomorrow you don't get a food for 3 days, you should have enough fat. Put on an arm. Same way, I should have sufficient inventory for those situations to manage this situation. Agility means I'm responsible to take care of those situations. But one has to draw the line. To make it agile does not mean that you become too fatter in inventory. So let's look at this one. Then where we got supply chain, and then I'm looking at a little bigger picture here now. So you can see one side I've got supplier, upstream, downstream is customer, and within the organization I've got my operation. So on the supplier side, this relationship is supplier does not like me. I'm not an attractive customer to them. Supplier performance. Within the organization, I've got operational risk, technical risk, financial risk. My company doesn't have a cash. Our customer side, I've got a customer also doesn't have the money to buy. They say, guys, if you want to give me, but I will do the payment after 6 months. I'll give you payment after 1 year. Reputation risk is there around. Environmental risk is there. So quite a big. So if you're looking from a supply chain side, now some of you are from the supply chain, you have to look at the supplier level, internal facing and customer facing. So upstream, internal, and then downstream around. So wake up call. Now this is the one issue. Now this is more of a strategy. Please wake up only when it happens. When we start running around. And this is common in many developing countries. Because if I start putting too much energy on focusing what may happen, let me start put resources for this. Company doesn't have money for this, guys, don't worry. When it will happen, we'll see to it. Now I think one lesson we have learned from the last years, we can't wait. Even the countries have seen. Many countries, GDP became on the minus side. Companies became on the minus side. 85% of the business world, if I look around, all were affected. So it's alone on when we cannot depend on. I think we have to see if it happens, what is my wake-up call? Now, if I talk of the framework we're talking of risk anticipation, risk monitoring, risk mitigation, and we also want high performance in procurement. So these high performance in procurement are 4 pillars. Strategy. Procurement strategy has to be good. Long-term thinking. I always say the pillars, the pyramid which you have, where you've got more O people and then T people, S people, the strategy people are very few. This is an ugly duck. And this ugly duck has to be reversed. More people at the S level, which are better paid also, then at the T level, and O level should be the less. O function should be automated. So that's the strategy, you need to work it out. Category management, very important around. I know we started in the good old days, the total cost of ownership, strategic sourcing. Now from strategic sourcing, we have gone to category. ISM also got certification on category management. So SRM is another one. Back to pay, end-to-end I want. Process and technologies, workforce and automation. So this gives you the broad framework. If any one of you is planning to make it changes, I think this framework could help. Let me walk through quickly a few ones, like establishing the context. What is the context I should do the risk management? Is it my specification is the context? Is my evaluation is the context? Is finding the supplier the context around? So we need to define the context. And in that context, identify the risk. Then analyze the risk. You have to go point by point. So this is where I've done the next one. Context could be external context. All my suppliers are from abroad. And all their suppliers are in a country where we have a geopolitical relationship problem. Then if with that relationship problem, I need to identify the risk. what can happen, when, where, and how. Analyze the risk. And then after analyzing the risk, there could be determining and determine the probability part. So I determine the probability part and consequences part. I combine the consequences and probability together. I say this is the level of risk. The level of risk is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever we want to say. Then evaluate the risk. You think, guys, come on, I can withstand it. Treat the risk, ignore it. Pass on the risk to someone. Or manage the risk around. That's what we call the treating risk. One risk which I have seen around very often is specification. Now let me go back to the context part. The second one, internal. Internal context could be that my specifications are not very good. They're old-fashioned. They're not very clear. When I compare with my competitors, my specifications are outdated. Product is becoming outdated. So my risk is, even if I get it made, nobody's going to buy it. So that means our product is not to the state of art. And let's be honest, even in the auto sectors, now slowly the number is going to change. Electric vehicles are bound to come in. So if we are not changing it, or we are not getting into hybrid system, it could affect it. My internal context of specification. So risk management is there. Risk evaluation criteria that also need to be set up. Now, when we look at the typical procurement risk, the very first game starts is planning and strategy. Those of you who are sitting at the senior level, heading the function, they spend a lot of time on planning and strategy. You got the plan for the whole year. Those on the production, they have the plan. Other side, services side, they say, guys, this is what I'm going to do this year. If you're not able to plan for a year, I know plans are not firm. Every month they could change. Every week they could change. No second thought. As I said to you, VUCA is a very volatile, but still you have to make it. So delaying procuring the critical item, that could be the risk. Possible consequences, delaying project outputs around, risk mitigation actions. So stage first is this. The second one, which I said in the beginning also, requirements and definition. Requirements has to be well defined. Requirements should comply with international standards. Requirements should also talk around, can I think of a substitute material? Solicitation process. So after we have covered the planning, the requirements part, solicitation process. You're not soliciting to the whole world. You're not soliciting the best suppliers. You might be using the same supplier again and again because you have a comfort level. But there are other suppliers that have come up now because nowadays there are too many startups coming around. If somebody comes with a better product, you don't want to try it. So your solicitation process, whom to invite, also very important. Evaluation part. Are you focusing only on the price? Are you focusing on the other things around, like a total cost of ownership? Downtime. So damage could also be there around. Sometimes I'm dealing with the supplier. I remember one big company who were subcontracting with shoemaker company, again with our own region, you could say around. And then the company caught the fire. Many people died. Because it's contracted. But who got affected? The stock market of the big company, which is based in the US, and they were getting the shoes made there. Sports shoes. So keep in mind, in all these evaluations, solicitations, one need to look at the human factors. Today's world is very open, not like 20 years back. Nobody knew what is happening in the world. Today, each and every information of it, particularly the big companies, come very open. And this could affect the stock market. And stock market means it could mean billions of dollars here. So contract management. Failure of the vendor to perform. You are given a contract, but you're not managing it. You leave it to the God, guys, okay, this supplier is very good. You're not even overseeing. You may not know that the guys whom you're contracted is depending on tier 2, tier 3. And tier 2 is already closed down. So contract management, supplier performance management. If you want to really do well, you need to be very transparent. So you need to bring with the technology which can tell you state on the dashboard. The morning you open, okay, there are the 50 critical items. What is the status of each one? Why it does not happen? So that's the way contract management. So if I summarize those ones, one is the human resources. Obviously, people are very important for our business. Regulatory non-compliance. In the past, nobody cared for it, but now the non-compliance is equally becoming important. Next is the poor choice of the vendors. We selected a wrong supplier. Although we had a choice, but we didn't want to make, the comfort level. We didn't want to change for the sake of it. Inaccurate data. And changing supplier is not easy, but I have a few examples around where we had a chance to work with one company. We came with a better supplier, but on the shop floor, people were comfortable with one old supplier. Supplier used to come every year, meet everybody down the line, production people. So that comfort level was there. The moment we change, supplier tells them, guys, okay, now in future, I won't be coming up. The contract has been given to this. People started, it's a human psychology. So I think we need to do, anything we do, we have to do in a cross-function. Inaccurate data. Now here comes again risk management, the global supply management. I'm going a little more than the procurement here. On the business side, are your strategy of procurement aligning with the corporate strategy? Internal. External side, are you able to keep in mind the customer requirements? Then inside again, I look around my human resources. Do I have the right people? I want to implement category management. I want to implement digital system or not. I have the right people or not? Do I able to train them? Then forecasting. So those could create risk. My forecasting is poor. Always error is 30 to 40%. That means something is wrong. Technical side, my requirements, compliance part, innovation part, supplier, my supply base is too small. And then the next technologies, tactical levels, and lastly, legal. Legal has been always one of the risk areas around. So risk area also could be commercial and legal, the fraud, economic and financials, regional instability part, as we are seeing in our neighborhood sometime. So those regional instabilities around could also affect some businesses. Technology part, e-procurement. Now, we might have gone for e-procurement, but e-procurement system is not working, not reliable. Operational part, outsourcing, currency fluctuations, IT infrastructures, security of the people around, negligence, misappropriation, information security, breach of contract, misuse of fund, innovation. You can see endless around. If you look from the procurement cycle, which is relatively easier, I will take the whole cycle and say my first step starts from needs, my specification. Second, my bidding process, my suppliers, my evaluation, my negotiation, contract management. I can spell it out. But if you just expand the zone, they're also part of it. Currency is a part of it. Outsourcing is a part of it. Then there could be terrorist activities, misuse of resources, poor performance of flood, pollution. So those risks, I think one risk before I go further, one example I want to tell you. It happened to one big company in India in 2011. I don't need to name them, but they were making some vehicles in this, and they were getting one critical part from Thailand. And Thailand was not able to give it because they were under the flood for 3 months. Now, 3 months, you can't find a substitute easily. For 3 months, the workers were coming on a daily basis. All other parts were coming on a daily basis, but nothing was going out. Customer was unhappy. So when you look at the losses which this company went through, it runs into billions. Worry comes around now, this risk management, till it was going well, the head of the procurement was all the time the top guy, very respected, getting promotion all the time. And when this happens, everybody fingers goes on that guy. You say, guys, why this has happened? Are you not ready for it? We know very well flood could happen, this could happen. Have you not planned for it? So keeping in mind, and that person has to lose the job around. So my risk to you, advice to you will be, if you feel in your system, there are only one supplier, only one monopoly supplier. You're not doing it with a rocket science item. There's a possibility to develop something. So there is one, but do tell the management guys, there is a possibility of risk here. And this is the solution. It may cost money. So please come up with that. Don't wait, oh, you are falling on the top, good laurels or did a great job. But that could also vanish. If one bad thing happens, people forget the good things. So my request to you is, all of you are dealing with the risk management at the senior level. They must look at it wherever you got a monopoly supplier. It's a critical item. Without that, the whole line could get disrupted. Please look into it. Now, my another thing is risk management part is primary vehicle of bringing risk into the organization. Risk of bankruptcy could also be there with the suppliers. And child labors, risk of inventory shortage, complexities, tier ones, all those things are there. Now let's come down, we're trying to come to the probability part. Risk, you have to justify whether it's a very high likelihood, high, medium, low. You could call 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could also call 10%, 10 to 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75. And each one I have defined around what it means. 75% means it could happen weekly or a monthly basis. If that type of disruption happens on a daily basis or weekly basis, that means it's a 75% of probability. So it gives you a broad thumb rule when to call 75%, when to call 25%, when to call 10%, when to call less than 10%. So this indicators helps you to define the probability part. Same thing, what is the correct impact part? That is the probability of occurrence. Now the likelihood of occurrence is the same story which we have gone through. The impact part, it could impact the financial service part. It could affect the project delay. It could affect the reputation of the company. It could affect the financial part. So depending on that, you have the definition. So you have got two things. One, impact. One, the likelihood of happiness. The likelihood could be very low, low, medium, high. Similarly, on the assessment side, I'll explain on this one. So now once we know this, the probability, and I know the cost of the project, multiply the two, that is what I'm going to have the impact. So that's the way the cost was $25,000, probability is 80%. So worst scenario, my loss would be 20,000. So you have to see whether you can ignore 20,000 or you want to take a risk. Now the risk strategy is based on these two parameters. Supply risk. Supply risk is very high, very low, medium. So you have got the 5 things. Impact also we talked around 5. So based on that, you could have 4 segments. So 4 segments, it means strategy, bottleneck, non-critical, leverage. And each one needs a different strategy. So this is what has to be done by the top people in the your procurement function or supply chain function. So strategic means strengthen the supplier relationship. If my risk is very high, profit is also gets impacted very high. There's no choice. Relationship, relationship, relationship. These are tested formulas for the lifetime, world time. Even in the past, good old days, everybody used to think of relationship. I think that helps you. If my risk is very high, profit impact is very low, I'll better reinforce my mark. I'll better more quantity. The cost is low. Profit impact is very low. So then my risk is high. So I'll better keep a stock. Let's say I'm working in a company like Boeing. Now Boeing is buying nuts and bolts to connect the wings to the body. It's a real case. And it happened. The bolts and nuts were not there around. In the system they were showing, actually they were not there. And those bolts and nuts are not standard I can buy from the roadside. So those bolts and nuts, I need to plan so I could have a hard stock. So mine is a bottleneck item. low value item, low profit impact, but then I'll better do stock of it. Leverage. I've got a risk is very less, but profit impact is more. I will obviously look at the savings. So different approach for different strategy. So once I know my risk matrix, again, on this side, likelihood is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, frequent, very high. Similarly, on the impact side, I'm calling as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the definition of which has been explained earlier. The catastrophe means very high, 5. Low means 1. So now we are able to show different color gene. So I could have with the scores 8, 9, 10, very major risk. 7 could be medium risk. 5 could be okay. But then I got the low risk. So this gives you the risk matrix around and work it out how do we do. So very high, high, mediums, low, and very low. So based on that, you can work it out with strategies. So when we know this, then my approach is different. That means those which have the 8, 9, 10 scores must manage. I can't ignore it. And monitor the risk. Should manage. And the last one is should accept the risk. So low risk, low likelihood. I'll say, guys, don't worry. If it happens, we'll see to it. But I will not do this one in the top one if it happens. I'll say what will do if it happens. So control levers are there according to the, depending on this one. The control mean if I know very well, I want control lever to be excellent. That means excellent means the risk and consequences are perfectly identified, understood. Control mechanism. High means risk and cost identified, understood. Medium means risk is identified. Control mechanism is in place, but not fully effective. And the last one is low, out of control. So we have high risk. We have catastrophic consequences. We have the low risk. We have the unknowns. So I can move this quickly. Now comes the treatment. Risk is there, yes. Then how do I treat it? Should I eliminate? Or should I avoid it? Should I transfer it? I think on the transfer, I can give you a joke around sometime. So sometimes we get too much work around. I know very well, if I don't do it, my boss is going to be angry. We delegate up the boss. Sir, I can't do this, better you take care first. We transfer the risk to the boss. So transfer is also there. Accept it and reduce it. So this is where it comes. Avoid means the clarity is there. Avoid the risk by deciding not to proceed with this. Guys, we will not do this part. You would avoid the risk. I'll better not do it than having a problem later. Reduce the risk. Reduce the likelihood by having a strategy, by having a procurement approach. Transfer the risk means risk to another part. I change the contractor. I change the liability clause. I change the indemnity clause. I pass on the insurance indemnity to the supplier. If I know that's going to happen, I'll say, guys, supplier, this is what is your problem. Accept the risk. It's a low area, I can accept. I say, guys, don't worry. It's a very low risk, I can manage it. So this is what the explanation is there. Compliance, compliance, compliance. Means conformity with standards. Conformity means standards could be rejection percentage. Conformity could be the quality part. Conformity could be with the delivery part. Conformity could be with the environmental damage. Conformity could be if it is going through the sea and oil and those gases part, they should not leak out. So those are the things. So violation part of the international laws, internal control systems, all of them are in the compliance. Now, when we talk about type of controls, we are before the fact, before things happen. That means I have to have a budget. I need to have plans. I need to have business continuity. I need to have forecast. So if I'm handling a function, naturally I'm controlling on the before the fact. So I've identified the risk. And then based on the risk, we do this thing. During the fact, controls. So during the fact means structured process. Adherence to policy, specification have to match up. And then something is post facto, guys, done. Now I'm getting the control from the audit side, report side, review side. So you have a control before you go into the process, and when you have started the structured process, you have started doing the bidding, you started selecting the suppliers. So this is upfront planning side, action side, and the last is we've done the job, now we're trying to review it back. So before the fact mean establish the benchmark. Guys, this is what I expect. This is what needs to be done for the research. During the fact means monitor any process like the acquisition process, sourcing process, contract writing, inventory management, environment management is all part of the during the fact. And the last is done is done. But then audit or somebody will find the gap part. Guys, you have a gap here. Your benchmarks were here. You read this. This is the gap set up. That will help you for the future. So those controls will help you. BCP, BCP, BCP. I would love to know during the question answer if anyone has the BCP and their experience around. I had the chance to implement in 2005 in the UN. We had a procurement of around $15 billion. So we need the BCP part. Identify and prevent risk. Prepare for the risk. Respond and recover if incident is crisis. So we want to see an example I gave to you. We were outsourcing something. Outsourcing does not mean only looking at the price and just saying, shaking hand and bye-bye. No. My interest was, if this happens, how this company is ensuring us continuity. And are they giving any backup of the product or data somewhere else? So that's what we went through. For the lessons learned, if I talk of the last COVID-19 pandemic, I think we all have learned, which to me, for many companies, I find as opportunity also, digital transformation. Otherwise, people won't have bothered about digital transformation. We would have been left behind compared to many advanced countries. So now digital transformation makes us smarter and compete more effectively. Look beyond tier one. I remember my own case when I used to be with one company. We were buying copper cables around 3,000 kilometers for a project in Iraq. And we were dealing with only one supplier. Every time supplier will give different answers. But now I can see from this that we need to know the tier 2, tier 3, what is happening in the chain. So don't put all this thing, okay, tier 1 has said to me this. Ask the guy, tell him, okay, who's your tier 2 suppliers? What is the status of each one? And that is only possible when you have a transparent system. So you need a digital system. You need a control towers. Creativity is the key. Vendor relationship is more important than ever. You can't treat vendors as a doormat. So when crisis comes, they are the one going to help you. So don't treat vendor relationship, particularly for a critical item, as a doormat. Treat them as partner. So this is why SRM has become very popular. Like CRM is popular from the customer side, on the upstream supplier, SRM. In the past, I know people used to treat suppliers, okay, let them wait, don't worry, they want a business. So if you want, treat them well. Procurement is unique upon to support local business. Now we are moving from the global few hubs around. Now, I think even in our own country, we're looking around to become future substitute or whatever you may call around, again a global hub. So different countries are looking around in their own regions. Lots of these changes are here to stay. Keep in mind, collaborative and strategic pillar. Look into automation wherever you can. Again, I'm trying to say that the one pyramid concepts which we all went through the college, we all learned around, the pyramid is an ugly pyramid, make it upside down, make it more strategic at the top, very few operational level. Operational means make it more automated. An effective risk management program. Agility, agility, agility. 2 years back, if you would have been listening, I would have been talking about GIT. Now I'm saying, guys, GIT is important. I'm not diminishing its importance now, but agility is equally important depending on the sector what you do. So if you can combine the two, great. But agility is the first thing to ensure responsibility. Then the definition of force majeure has come up. The whole doctrine of frustration. People were frustrated last year. Can companies say because of force majeure, you can't terminate the contract? Then I think the government of India put down the quote when they came around. So they should be considered as a case of natural calamity. So that's the definition. And the force majeure clause may be invoked. That's what they came. Then there are risk management standards quite a lot. I think each company, depending on the size of the organization, my advice to you would be ISO 31000. So if you can get ISO 31000 on 2018, and there's a 2009, I think they are very important around, I think, to work with it. Then there are other standards also available, like COSO has come up from top 5 companies. They were trying to fight with initiative to combat corporate fraud around. So they came with ERM. Then there is again OCEG book, Red Book on the risk and compliance. I would still say ISO 31000, ISO 31010. These are 2 good books. Every department, those who are a big procurement function, they must have it. Well, friend, with this, I want to touch the last point, the role and the responsibility of many of you are the very senior position. So my request to you would be, risk management strategy has to be there in systems. Promote risk management awareness. Very frequently, I remember when we did BCP, I'm talking of 2005, 15, 16 years back, people say, what are these guys talking about BCP? What BCP? People joked at it, I remember the time. So now I think it's the right time, and people have burned their finger last years, so I think they'll be happy to do it. Encouraging adverse events around. Releasing staff for training. If some subject come for training on this, please encourage them to go for this thing. Identify and release the staff to act as risk assessors. Monitor, ensure compliance with standards. So ERP standard, if you can get enterprise risk management system, ISO standard, I think it's a great thing. Well, friend, with this, I want to thank you all and wish you best of luck in managing procurement risk in your journey.